This episode of Fuel for the Soul is powered by ASICS. Head over to asics.com and sign up for a one ASICS account. It's completely free, and when you sign up, you will receive 10% off your first purchase. You'll also gain access to exclusive colorways on asics.com, free standard shipping, special birthday month discounts, and more.
Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
This is Megan with Believe in the Run.
And this is Megan with Featherstone Nutrition.
AKA The Feathers.
And you're listening to Fuel for the Soul, the podcast where we chat all things nutrition and hydration and how it affects performance.
And if you're easily offended, please stop listening now. Go on to a different podcast. Go on like a Mel Robbins or something and just chill the F out, because we're here to educate and inform and sometimes be a little snarky.
Yeah, have a little fun along the way. It can't be all dry and boring.
Could we talk about nutrition for an hour or however long it is and not like try to spice it up a little bit?
Spice it up.
I mean, I think like 99.5% of people are here for the spice. So, you know, yeah. I think we're all right.
Speaking of spice, somebody gave you guys M-Salt when you went to your Move Her Mind tour.
Yes.
Have you tried it?
Grand Rapids.
I did try it, and here's what I like about it. It's kind of like everything bagel seasoning, but like light. You know, you get the garlic, you get the black pepper, you get the salt. You're just missing like,
you don't have the sesame seeds or the onion
poppy
powder
seeds
or the poppy seeds.
So it's just kind of like, it's tame. It's not as crazy.
I'm so impressed you guys tried it. I'm like, is mine still in my suitcase? What did I do with mine? I came home in like such a whirlwind.
You haven't tried it?
Met the kids at a swim meet, and then the next day was Smith's birthday. Yeah. I'm like, where's my salt? I need to go find it. It made it through. They searched our bags. I forgot to warn Meg. I was like, why are they searching my bags? We both carried on because it was just one night. I was like, they didn't search me on the way here. Like, did I forget and leave like a water bottle in it or something? And the woman drags my bag over with this big smirk on her face, goes, "You got salt in your bag?" I was like, yes, I do. I didn't know either.
That was bad, yeah.
Like, what do they think it is?
I tried it on some cottage cheese today. That was delicious. I put it on a sandwich that I made real quick, a little turkey sandwich. And then I think it would go really nicely on popcorn.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that.
It's a really good, easy seasoning. Like I threw it, there's a pork loin in our slow cooker at home, and I just dumped some of that on there. Good to go.
Yeah, it's because Maryland goes crazy for Old Bay, but sometimes Old Bay is too much.
It's a lot. You got to be in the mood. Yeah.
It's a distinct flavor versus a salty, peppery, garlicky. Yeah.
So speaking of Grand Rapids, where Megan and I just were, we were met there by our fellow sponsor, Cam from Runway. He brought their, what's the
foundation product.
The foundation product.
Yeah.
And he brought the lemon lime and the wild cherry, and we combined them.
That's insane.
That's the key. It was so good.
So good.
So why didn't he just do that? Lemon cherries.
Well, if you get the bundle, then you get both of them. You can mix it yourself.
Right? I mean, I was like, this is where it's at. For sure. Yeah. It was delicious. Yeah, it was good. He was also giving away, he was slinging some protein powder out there, having some people try the protein powder. But yeah, and then we got to run with him in the morning. It was good to, get out there.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't tried Runway product yet, you can go to runway.life. That's RNWY.life and use the code FEATHERS15 for 15% off your purchase.
I heard you could use Believe 25 for 25% off.
You cannot.
You
try it. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. See what happens.
It might not work, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Thomas's special code.
Yeah. I love it. The other thing,
how many people try it.
In Grand Rapids, so Gazelle Sports hosted us, and they had the most massive charcuterie board I've ever seen in my entire life for everybody to eat that was there. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was just every stop has like a little bit of a different like feel to it. So Meg and I are never quite sure what we're going to walk into or what exactly it's going to be. And I mean, I feel like we just keep leveling up. So any of the stops that are listening, they're here to come. We got
charcuterie board was top of the heap so far.
It was incredible.
It was insane. Yeah. It was amazing.
So
it had
like
macarons on it. Yeah.
Everything you could think about was on this.
Hamburger.
Yeah. Well,
there was like pickles and olives and cheese and meats and crackers and like 20 different types of crackers at least.
Soft pretzels?
No, it was not soft pretzels.
Okay. A lot of things I'm thinking about aren't there.
But anyway, they like totally transformed the store when we got there, and they had also this like beautiful flower bouquets. Like it was lovely.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it was really fun. We had a great crew, beautiful crew, like super engaged, very happy to be there. Full house. I think there was like 2 empty seats. Yeah.
Our next stop, we have a little break here. Well, kind of. When this podcast comes out, it'll be coming right up. But is Monterey on July 26th. And we will say if you are going to the ASICS website to RSVP to one of these future events and it asks for a code, it just means that they haven't finalized all of the details and you can't RSVP quite yet, but it will be coming. All right. Unless there's anything else we need to cover, let's get into listener questions.
Let's do it.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. Actually, our first one is a listener update rather than a question. So we answered Chris's hydration question in episode 105. He was getting dizzy and lightheaded at the end of his runs, and this is what he wrote in. Good day, mates. Do you want to try that?
Good day, mate.
Okay. From old Sydney Town, thank you for answering my question on your podcast regarding dizziness on long runs and for the excellent advice. You were right. I switched to a saltier drink mix and, crucially, started using Precision Hydration sodium capsules. I recently did a half marathon where, in addition to electrolyte mix in my soft flask, I took a capsule every 7 kilometers with water from the aid stations. It did the trick. No cramps, no dizziness, and ran a happy race, although missed my PR by 2 seconds. Thanks for the tips and the great podcast.
Okay, now wait a second. He says 7 kilometers.
Yeah. It's a little over 3 miles.
Yeah, so that's got to be like every 4 miles, right?
Yeah.
All right, he must have done some math.
And a lot of it depends on pace. So depending on what his pace was, maybe that was frequently enough. Yeah. I was just stoked that he gave it a whirl.
So it's amazing that, I appreciate what he did because I think that a lot of us feel like we're doing the right thing. We get a drink that like a Gatorade or, whatever's available on course or something that says it has electrolytes and you don't think about it. And then a little tweak like adding more sodium or getting those higher,
more sodium, higher amounts of sodium.
Electrolytes. Yeah. And then it changes everything for you. I'm glad you had a great race. So, toodaloo, mate.
Toodaloo, mate. Well, that's what, just last summer, I increased my sodium. I almost doubled it per hour. I thought I was doing the right thing, and I'd been doing it for years. I can't believe how much better I felt. Like, I know what my sodium loss is, and I was like, I'll recoup the rest before and after. But I started putting 1,200 milligrams of sodium in my bottle, and I felt so much better afterwards. So no matter how long we've been doing this, there's still things we probably all need to tweak. Hydration, sodium, carbs. Like, don't be afraid to try something new, especially now in our training. If you have a fall race coming up, now's the time to tinker with things and play with things. I don't know about you guys, but we're supposed to have this massive heat wave this coming week in the 90s, which is crazy for this time of year.
Megan said something like 100 and something over here.
For you guys, probably. I feel like you guys are always like 10 degrees warmer than we are. So yeah, play with it. Like, don't be afraid to try some new stuff.
All right. Our next question is an audio file. So here we go.
Hi, Megan, Feathers, and Thomas. This is Ashley Niss from Lovettsville, Virginia, and I have actually written in before about this very question, and it's a little bit of a follow-up. My question is about cracking the sub-3 marathon. So I have sort of 3 questions. 2 are fueling, and 1 is training, even though I know you're not a training podcast. So first of all, between 2024 and 2025 Boston Marathon, I cut 7 minutes off of my course PR, and that's a breakthrough race for me. In the past, I've only ever cut maybe 2 minutes off here and there. And so if I could do that at the Chicago Marathon this coming fall, comparing so last year when I ran Chicago, I ran a 3:10, and that is my fastest marathon to date. Now, if I could cut off 7 minutes, that gets me to a 3:03, and that gets me so close to the sub-3 I can taste it. And I would be very happy with the 3:03. That's some real progress. Here's my question. In the past, I have hit 80 to 90 grams of carbs per hour on race day, and that's in large part thanks to you all. But what about in training? And so what I'm thinking about specifically is the days where I'm doing really, really hard, fast, like track style workouts. So these are going to be short bursts of speed. Yes, it will be a workout that is over 90 minutes, an hour to 90 minutes. Do I still need those 80 to 90 grams of carbs on those days? Is that still something I should be trying for? And what about the easy days? So yes, I know that we want to be, hitting at least 50 grams of carbs an hour, even on easy days, on workouts longer than 90 minutes. But should I really be trying to go a little higher there so that I am really fueling my running throughout the week? And at this point, for me, this race that is coming up is going to be a race of margins, right? So I am splitting hairs 100%. But I'm curious about that. So easy days, zone 2 days, should I still be trying to hit 80 to 90 grams? Additionally, I am 100% team handheld water bottle on race day, but frankly, 16 ounces is not enough. I am a heavy sweater. I am a salty sweater, and that does not do it for me. And again, I don't feel like I have time to stop and refill. Do you all have advice on how to carry more than that in a marathon when it kind of is, for me, every little second matters? Finally, the training question: how much time do y'all spend at marathon goal pace? A sub 3 is going to be between 6:45 and 6:51 if I'm really cutting it close. That feels impossible on race day. Now, I can do that if I'm running a long run of 14 to 18 miles and I'm doing like a 3x5K for the workout, right? For those 5Ks, I can hit that pace, 6:45 to 6:51. But that feels impossible to do over 26.2 miles. So how much time do you spend at marathon goal pace to hit that? I know that both of the Megans have run those sub 3s, so I'm looking for any advice possible. Are you running that distance for that speed for like an hour? What should I be trying to incorporate? Again, I am 100% splitting hairs, but I'm trying to do everything I can to set myself up for success at Chicago this coming fall. Thank you for all you do. Love the podcast.
That was very in-depth.
Ashley is very serious about her training here, which we love around these parts. So we'll dive into her 3-part question now. Her first question was, she takes 80 to 90 grams of carbs per hour on race day, which is fairly phenomenal. There's a lot of people that can't quite hit that amount. So kudos to you, Ashley, for training your gut to be able to take in 80 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. But I think her next question is, how do I translate that into training? Like, what should I be doing in my training? So when we think about what are our carb needs during training, it's based on 2 things: intensity and duration. So we want to be thinking about both of those things when we're trying to figure out how to fuel. Reminder, this is all assuming that our daily nutrition is adequate. So if our daily nutrition is not adequate, we may need more than what I'm about to talk about. But for the most part, we're assuming, right, that our daily nutrition looks really good. So when we look at the research, we know that we can kind of bucket our workouts or our long runs into different groups based on intensity and duration. So when we're looking at less than 60 minutes of activity, around 30 grams of carbs is probably fine. So if you're headed to the track to do a speed workout, put some sort of carbohydrate beverage in your bottle, sip on it throughout that hour. That is probably plenty, right? Again, assuming that we're eating enough beforehand and we're recovering well afterwards. Then where it starts to get a little bit more nuanced with the intensity and the duration is when we're up like 60 minutes to 2 hours, right? So if we're at a super low intensity, that 30 grams of carbs per hour might still be okay. However, once we get into that moderate to high intensity, that's where we start to say we need upwards of like 60 grams of carbs an hour. And then when we're thinking about over 2 hours of exercise and it's at high intensity, which would be like marathon pace, that's where we want to try to fuel more like race day. So for her, that would be like 80 to 90 grams of carbs an hour. So if she has a workout that's high intensity, that's 60 to 90 minutes, we probably want to split the difference and go around like 60 grams of carbs an hour. But if she's training marathon pace in her long run, even though we're not holding that pace the whole time, our intensity is still higher, right? We know that, like in a fartlek run or something like that, we know our intensity kind of climbs throughout. she probably does want to hit her 80 to 90 grams of carbs an hour. So those are the two things you want to be thinking about, is that intensity and that duration when it comes to like how much should we be fueling while we're out there in training.
Did she say that she dropped 7 minutes off her time at Boston?
Yeah.
Like
It's
on
the
that course?
PR, she's saying, yeah.
At Boston, though.
Yeah, from one Boston to another.
Right, and she's going to run Chicago. Like, that's a...
But her PR is at Chicago. It's not like the PR was from Boston and she's going
Yeah.
to Chicago.
Yeah.
But where did she drop?
A course PR from Boston to Boston. But her PR is at Chicago at 3:10.
Okay. So it's still...
Right.
She's
Okay.
comparing apples to apples with Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking that she was going to get to Chicago and not have those hills. And,
And fly.
you know, there you go. You got some extra wheels.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only thing I would add on top of the duration and the intensity would be like if we're trying to train our gut, right? Like if we're not at that 80 to 90 grams an hour and that's what we're trying to get to for race day, we may want to fuel even some of our easier long runs more aggressively to get our body used to being able to do that and practicing race day fueling. So there are certainly some exceptions to this, but it could be some guidelines to help her.
And then the handheld, that one's tricky because my strategy has just been to chuck it and use what's on course. But
I mean, especially Chicago has such deep hydration.
But if she's worried about, like, I don't know, not everyone can tolerate Gatorade, or maybe they just don't want the Gatorade. What are like I guess you could do salt tabs or salt.
Well, would it be possible? I know she doesn't want to stop and refill, but would it be possible for her to grab a cup and continue running and fill her bottle? Like you can grab, you don't have to stop and wait there. You could grab a cup, fill it, like have your top unscrewed.
I mean, Megan refilled her bottle within like 10 seconds in Berlin. Like I watched it all happen and I was like, I don't know how she did that. And then I tried to do it.
So what did you do in Berlin?
I was running like a 6:25 pace, like somehow refilled my bottle. Well, the one thing about Berlin is you can stash a bottle that's already mixed. So I grabbed a bottle of my mixed drink. And so all I had to do was open that bottle and get it into the bottle that was my handheld. So it was a little less cumbersome, but even still, you're juggling like pieces and parts and lids and this, at Berlin, there's like this massive bottle that I had like a ruler sticking off of so that I could identify it. So it was a little cumbersome. But it sounds like she's pretty hell-bent against refilling. I mean, in New York City, we tried to video it, but it didn't end up going super well. But I ran through one of the aid stations and took every single cup and filled my water bottle as I was running. And that works too. So you can certainly do it, but it doesn't sound like she actually wants to. And it obviously, is 16 ounces enough? Probably not, but also it depends on the weather. So if you get a nice cool day, we're always going to end our race dehydrated. We just want to minimize that dehydration so that it doesn't impact performance. So that's something we personally have to practice in different weather to be confident on that. But just like Megan said, I usually drink my bottle, toss it, and then use what's on course. So that would be an option. A lot of people in this scenario, when maybe the weather isn't as favorable, that aren't willing to remix and they only want to use water on course, I'll have them switch so that their gels in the second half of the race are higher in sodium. So we know we have gels out there right now that have significantly more sodium than others. So if somebody only wants to rely on course water, but they know they need more sodium, then we just kind of switch our nutrition plan for the second half of the race to make sure we're getting sodium either from our gels or, as Meg said, from a salt cap. So there's ways to do it.
What are some of the gels that have higher sodium?
The biggest one right now is Victus. I think we talked about it a few.
I tried that. I actually like it.
Yeah, it's a heavy hitter. I mean, there's 340 grams of sodium, 340 milligrams of sodium in a Victus gel, which I've never seen a gel with that much. I mean, that's crazy.
Do you know who didn't know that?
Who?
Me. Like I had no idea there was that much sodium in it.
Just trying it, huh?
I just liked it. You mentioned it. I liked it. The flavor wasn't bad. The consistency is not bad. So I actually enjoyed it. Now looking back, I can kind of remember the taste being a little salty. But I liked it. I thought it was a good gel. Yeah.
I still also have a lot of people using the salt stick caps, which have 215 milligrams of sodium.
I always
not
find
too
those.
shabby.
That to me is really hard to carry the caps because I was putting them in like a plastic bag, and then you got to fish through your thing and figure out where. And if you are holding a handheld, you need both your hands to take, a capsule.
Yeah. Well, and some people can't swallow a pill while they're running, so that's out, but.
Yeah.
If somebody figures this out, I will tell you this, they're coming out, Oakley's doing a thing with Meta where it's going to have like heads up display for like cyclists and stuff like that you'll know what your, speed is and all that kind of thing. I am betting that it will make it to running and it will be like it's time to fuel and, all those kind of things. You could have a pacer in your corner of your eye. Like this I think you're going to have, within the next 5 years, you're going to have some really interesting.
In case you really want to take the joy out of running,
just watching TV
I would throw those sunglasses off so fast, like, get out of my eye.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
It's like,
tell me what to do.
It's the same though. Like if you're checking your watch for pace or something like that, and maybe it's something you don't want to use. You may want to use it for a race, but like for training, it'd be great. Like if you don't have someone to run with, to be like, okay, well, I have difficulty finding the pace. So if I had a little pacer like in the corner of my eye, that's like, this is, if they're in your sight, then you're running this pace. I'm
going to play devil's advocate, though. Like, you're choosing to look at your watch, to just have it constantly in your eye, what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's conducive to most runners' mental sanity while they're out there
Especially because
racing.
sometimes I like to purposefully not look at my watch because I'm like, I'm just going to go by feel on this. Yeah. And then if it's in my face, it can't.
Feel is hard.
That's a whole other subject.
Psyche.
But I do like... I feel like you get into running, you're just proud and excited that you're running. Mm-hmm. Then you start getting competitive, and then you take some of the joy out of, hey, I'm just here doing it. And then you get to my stage where it's like, you want to see what you can do, but the competitiveness isn't quite the same as it used to be. And you've got to find a way to be happy again with running and figure it out.
Calling Emily Saul. We need to find ways to be happy here. This is a different conversation.
I mean, without getting too deep into it, but it's interesting. The relationship with running is very interesting. But
Oh, Meg, she also wanted to know how much time you recommend spending at marathon goal pace.
Oh, yeah, this one's hard because it really depends so much on the person. I will say, I think there's two reasons that it's really important to incorporate marathon pace into several of your long runs in the build. And it's one, so that you can feel what marathon pace should feel like, essentially. And that might actually be a different pace in the beginning of your training to when you're peaking for training and then get to race day. And then the second part is that I know for me, and I know for you, Megan, after working with you on several builds, that hitting those long runs with marathon pace in them is a huge confidence builder. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's most important for those two reasons. I've done Hanson training plans and plans where they do like 10 miles at a time of marathon pace, and that did not work well for me. But I found that breaking up long runs with segments of marathon pace specifically, it gives you a chance to feel that pace, but not feel totally overwhelmed with holding it for 12 miles.
Okay, it's 3 weeks out from the marathon. It's your last 20-mile run of the session. What's the breakdown?
So if this is your peak long run and you're up to 20 miles, I would say you could put anywhere from 8 to 12 miles at marathon pace within that, but broken up. So let's say 4 by 2 miles. If you're an experienced marathoner, 4 by 3 miles.
So I'm doing my warm up. I get 2 miles in.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to hit 4 miles at marathon pace.
3 or 4, yeah.
Okay, and then
mile in between, 3 or 4 more. Like I'm not doing the math in my head of what that would add up to, but
yeah. Well, that's what Meg used to always start me off, and there'd be like 3 by 1 at marathon pace, and then like 2 by 3, or so very slowly she would get, and then the biggest one would be like a mile on, a mile off for like 22 miles. So like a mile warm up, mile cool down. So 10 miles at marathon pace with the 10 miles like 40 seconds slower. I don't know if that was prescribed or if I just tried to beat what you prescribed, which is another problem with my brain. But yeah, and then you have this long run that averages like a sick pace, and it's a lot of concentration, and it just builds a ton of confidence. So, you know, I think like Mike was saying, practicing that marathon pace is huge. Like, it builds so much confidence. And like she said, it's a little slower in the beginning and then gets, you know, kind of ratcheted down to goal pace by the end.
So good luck, Ashley, with all of your training, but I think you're going to do great in Chicago. All right. Our next question is from Brittany Mills. She said,
It's Brittany?
It's Brittany.
Biatch.
Love the podcast. And thanks for all the knowledge you share. I had a question surrounding carb sources during a run. Are liquid carbs, i.e. scratch high carb, and gel carbs absorbed the same, or are liquid carbs easier on the stomach? Megan, is there a reason you suggest combining the scratch hydration sport with the everyday versus just doing multiple scoops of the hydration sport? Are the extra carbs from the hydration sport really too much?
Yes. Okay. So what she has combined here into this question is a question I get so frequently. I was like, we have to break this down. So hopefully people can follow, because I feel like we're going to get a tiny bit sciencey here, but there really is a rhyme or a reason to why we shouldn't, quote unquote, overmix certain carb drinks and why we can concentrate other carb mixes. So our stomach is quite finicky. So let's break this down a little bit. First, types of carbs that you might see if you flip over your sports drink or your gels and look at the ingredients. We almost always see glucose and fructose. And then some of the things we see maltodextrin or then a cyclic dextrin, which are both more of a complex, like polymer type carbohydrate. So our glucose and our fructose are very simple carbohydrates. But the problem with those two things is they can become over-concentrated in our stomach. So our stomach doesn't like when we put too much sugar in at once. It's based on the quote-unquote osmolality of that sugar. So if you take something like the regular scratch hydration drink and you put 3 scoops into your 12 to 14 ounces instead of the 1 that they recommend, the osmolality of that from all of that glucose and fructose is going to be very, very high. So when we dump that into our stomach is going to be like, nope, I don't like the concentration of this liquid. So it's going to pull a ton of fluid into our stomach to try to dilute it. The same thing would happen if you take a gel without taking fluid with it that needs fluid. So over time, sometimes we can get away with it for a little bit, but over time, that's a lot of stress on our stomach and it's pulling a lot of fluid in that should be other places in our body. So we end up with a lot of GI distress if we were to over-concentrate some of these glucose fructose mixtures. Now, you've probably seen that most of your sports fuel has glucose and fructose in it because we actually absorb those through 2 different pathways in our small intestine. So when we used to not fuel or only take 30 grams of carbs an hour, it really didn't matter what type of carbs we were taking. But as we're pushing this, to our earlier question, up into like the 80 and 90 grams of carbs per hour, we have to make sure we have a balance of the glucose and the fructose so that we can really optimize the absorption through both those pathways so that we can absorb that without having GI distress. Because anytime we have something left over that our body can't absorb, it's going to cause a problem, right? So this is why I don't recommend over-concentrating most electrolyte drinks because it just gets too much sugar and too small of a volume, which can cause some trouble. However, we all know that we have high carb drink mixes. Tailwind makes a high carb fuel. Scratch makes a super high carb. The Morton 320 drink mixes. So how do we get 100 grams of carbs into a very small bottle with those? That's because they're not just using the glucose and the fructose. They're using those more complex polymers, the maltodextrin and the cyclic dextrin. So those can be concentrated because the osmolality of those is very, very low. So we can dump a bunch of those quote unquote simple carbohydrates into our stomach without upsetting it. So that's where if we're going to try to concentrate something into a bottle, it really does make sense to use some of these more quote unquote specialized products that we can concentrate a little bit more, which we're seeing kind of growing in opportunities. Like I literally just went through my cupboard and had 3 just sitting here, right? So there's like the Scratch one, the Tailwind one, and then the Morton drink mix. And I'm sure there's other people that make these now too. And so there's anywhere from 90 to 100 grams of carbs that we can pack into a very small bottle with these types of things. So if that's the goal, if we want a drink that has a ton of carbs in it, we really do need to go to some of those more specialty products so that our stomach, can tolerate those.
So if you just took regular sugar and made it yourself a sugar water, would that get you anything? Like, could you use that for fueling?
Like Kool-Aid or lemonade or something like that?
I guess so, yeah. The Country Time lemonade guys, yeah.
Yeah, right, to a point. So we could take in, probably 40 or 50 grams of carbs an hour that way. But if we want to try to take in more, that's where we need to get some fructose in there, and or some of these maltodextrin, cyclic dextrin type options. So, I've had a lot of people like, I don't want to take in fructose or I don't want to take in maltodextrin. There's all these like myths out there that like certain carbs are bad for us. And it's when you really look at the science, there's a purpose and there's a reason that we're including all of these different types of carbs in, because we're trying to optimize the different fueling pathways in our body to make it easier for our muscles to get more energy to be able to sustain those higher intensity paces for longer.
Okay, let's get at least one more question here. This is from Leah. She said, I love your podcast. Thank you for all the helpful info you share. I'm planning to train for my first marathon this fall. Yay, I think. I've done 2 half marathons so far, and both times I've had to pee so badly by the end. During long runs, I carry a 12 to 14 ounce handheld with 1 scoop of Nun hydration, but I'm pretty salty sweater, so I know I probably need more electrolytes. The thing is, I'm kind of scared to drink more because I already have to pee like crazy. Even on long runs, I've gotten up to 16 miles. I sometimes have to stop. Is this just something everyone deals with? Do most people end up stopping during a marathon, or is there some hydration trick I'm missing? I'd rather not stop during the marathon. I've heard about hyperhydrating, like 2,000 milligrams the day before. Would that help? I did that before my last half.
So there's a few things I want to chat about here, but the first thing I'm thinking, I think Leah might be over drinking before she goes running. Because if she's a heavy sweater, if she's a salty sweater, we're not ever taking in enough fluid while we are running to create urine to have to pee, right? We're dehydrated. So if she has to pee that bad during, I'm wondering if she's drinking too much leading up to these races, or if we need a pelvic floor therapy consult like we talked about at the beginning. But, that's kind of just my gut intuition reading this. But taking a step back and looking at like what are some of the takeaways here would be, first and foremost, if this is like an ongoing issue and it's annoying and you want more confidence in it, figure out what your sweat rate is. Make sure you're not over drinking out there, right? It's possible she's a salty sweater, but not a crazy heavy sweater. I don't think carrying a, 12-ounce bottle, there's any way she's over drinking fluids. So that's kind of my gut there. But, let's know, right? You can weigh in and out. There's a calculator on my website. Figure out how much you're losing per hour and kind of tinker with how much fluid you're taking. The other one, obviously, don't drink too much pre-run. Most people can process the extra fluid they take in if they stop drinking like an hour before the run. So she could try that, not drinking so much right up to the run. Also, if you're drinking too much coffee before the run, for some people that stimulates their bladder. It's not really a diuretic if we're used to drinking the coffee, but some of us feel like we have to pee sooner, like if we're drinking more coffee. So that could be something to play with. And then 2, more sodium encourages fluid retention. So like she was saying, I do think she should hyperhydrate the night before, right? Because if we take in that extra sodium, we're going to hang on to that fluid and not have as much to pee out. So just some strategies.
Even if I pee like 3 times before I get to the start line, there's something about when you start running. And
you're talking specifically race scenario?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That there's something about it where typically I get like a mile in and I'm like, I got to pee. And I think that some of it might be like psychological, but yes. I also know like, and I'm like, I also know if I just hold it long enough, it will just go through me again. Like, I don't know it just disappears.
So that's definitely nerves. Because we know once the liquid gets to our bladder, it's there. We're not going to sweat that out, right? Okay. Like once it's in our bladder, we have to pee. Like that's the only way to get it out at that point. So yeah, I think that's probably just race nerves. But maybe when I first started running, I had to stop, but I can't, for the last 5 years, I can't think of a race I stopped to pee in. And I always make sure I cut fluids off an hour before, and I don't know.
That's so key, because I know even on mornings where if I drink my coffee too close to the beginning of my run, like I have to pee when I'm out there. It's like, it's without a doubt. So I need at least 30, ideally like an hour, like you said, but at least like 30 minutes. If I'm like drinking coffee and then run out the door, I'm like halfway into my run, I gotta pee.
Yeah.
So we did the half Ironmans, and I didn't like much about it. But what I did like was you can just pee while you're going.
In your wetsuit?
You pee in your wetsuit. You can pee on the bike. You can pee on your run.
You can, but no one wants to. That's uncomfortable.
It was, I mean, you're out there for all day. I just remember I was finishing the half marathon, and every station had ice and water and stuff. So, I was just like, I'm going to go, and I'll just rinse at the next stop.
Well, that's what I think we talked about this on here before. When I did that half Ironman, like I was running, and all of a sudden I just realized I was peeing. I was like, I guess we're just gonna go. Like it wasn't even a conscious decision. Like I think it was something about like pelvic floor of like being on a bike and then standing up and running and just I don't know. And I was just like, okay. And there's like pee flinging out of my alpha flies. I was like, oh,
right. That's the thing. I would like I would consider buying some used stuff. I'd never buy used triathlon gear. Not even the bike. The bike is definitely.
I don't know.
I mean, you're out there for 50 to 100 miles.
It's a day.
You don't see anybody getting off the bike and going to the bathroom.
Right. It's a day.
All right. That does it for this week's episode of Fuel for the Soul. Thank you, as always, for listening. And if you have a question that we haven't answered, you can send us an email at fuelforthesoulpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to hear your lovely voice on air here, you can send us an audio file and we will play it.
Peas and carrots?
Bye.
Is that it? Okay.
You say, is that it?
Someone yelled peas and carrots at the end of our thing in
I love
Grand
it.
Rapids.
Yeah, people have got to do it. Someone's got to. AKA the feather tickler.
No. Really?
You want more oomph on it? All right. That's not the, you're going to have to edit this part out.